Meeting will come to order, please. Johanna, please read a statement of compliance.
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the Press of Atlantic City, Star Ledger, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, the municipal website, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Please turn off all cell phones.
Let's please stand for this Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Becker,
I'm here.
Commissioner Amadeo.
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg.
I am here.
First item for discussion. Mr. Kreischer, I'm glad you showed up, and you had about 30 seconds to spare.
Thank you. I have a presentation for you so you can follow along if you can. I made 6 copies. I figured the 3 commissioners, solicitor, the clerk maybe, CFO.
Timmy, you had a minute and a half.
I'm only trying to save you money.
Thank you, sir.
So, thanks for, not to eat into my minute and a half, but thanks for having me here tonight. I just wanted to share some shared services ideas that I've been working on. And my plan is, I've sent this to all the municipalities. Mr. Deeney asked me to come today. Just to talk briefly about it, and then my plan is I'm going to be scheduling webinars with subject experts to give to the municipalities and to more full detail of what I'm going to talk about today and give you an opportunity to ask them questions. So the first thing I want to go into is that there was 20 LEAP grants, Local Efficiency Achievement Program grants given out throughout the state. Atlantic County entities got 6 of them, so it was 30%. No, yes, 30%. Margate participated in 3 of them, so out of 500 and some municipalities, Margate received 3, participate in 3 of those 20 grants, so congratulations. The 3 that you were in was the Atlantic County government with the trailer-mounted attenuators, with the city of Ventnor to purchase an emergency management trailer to be used at citywide events or major incidents, and also actually it was 2. The third one's with the county to broadcast brine on the county roads in the city of Margate. So some of the ideas that I'm working on, if you go through, is electronic storage of documents and records. I know when I was in office, we had paper all over the place, filing cabinets up in the attic, over Public Works, that a much more efficient way of storing records and documents, with the understanding that not everything can be stored in the cloud and you need to keep some things on paper, but there is a lot of things that you can store in the cloud, get rid of paper. And it's, I list the benefits there. I won't read them all. You can see them, but there's a lot of benefits to storing things on the cloud. One of the big things for the clerk maybe is Oprah requests. I know we in the city of Ventnor, we had people just submit Oprah requests for the sake of submitting them. Having all at the touch of a keystroke to pull those documents up and send them out to people really expedites the Oprah request process. It's just much more safer. Are you protected from a fire, a broken water pipe, a malicious employee that you recently had a discipline that's going to say, well, here, I'll put this over here. They'll never find it. So being in the cloud with access to only certain individuals, and you can see who accessed that last, is pretty efficient and pretty productive. Working with a LEAP grant, that if you were to do this on your own for a 3-year period, probably cost you about $25,000, $26,000. Going through the LEAP grant process and consolidating and get a scale of efficiencies, is we can get that cost down to about $7,000. You can reduce your cost about 30%. And actually, I'm looking to do that webinar on December 14th, but I will follow up with you if you're interested. And attached to that is just some information on a company that I've been talking to. The next is lead paint inspections. It's come to my attention, actually, I got this idea from a small municipality in Atlantic County, that if you have a rental license program, you need to inspect all rental units for lead paint. They're not a lead-free certification, you have to do it every time you change tenants. So it's pretty cumbersome, especially for small municipalities. But even for a municipality like Margate, maybe you do not have the resources in-house to do all these inspections. My plan is, I've talked to the Atlantic County Improvement Authority. They're interested in being the lead agency, and they have a company on board who does their lead paint inspections for their HUD projects. So they already have this mechanism in place that may be, particularly the small towns that may not have the resources, if they were to contract with a vendor to do 100 rental units, it's going to be one price. If we bundled everybody together, it'd be economy of scale, maybe get 2,000 inspections, it's going to be a lower price than the ACIA can pass that savings on to the municipalities. Again, the onboarding costs and some upfront fees, we can get 75% paid for through a LEAP grant. So it can really drastically reduce the cost of the inspection. And again, there's a thing from the state attached there you can look at. The third concept is cybersecurity. Apparently this is a big thing with the Atlantic County JIF. I understand that they may be setting up a separate JIF just for cybersecurity due to the complexity of it. I've been talking to a company. They're sending me some information, but they haven't sent it yet, where most companies have a sliding scale. So one company they showed me, if you have 250 users to 499, it's one price. And as you get more users, that price per user comes down. So there's again an opportunity to find a lead entity to cover 75% of the upfront cost through LEAP. But importantly, and they showed me that from the bottom scale to the top scale was a 25% reduction in cost. So that if we bundled many municipalities together, if Margate had 100 users, Ventnor had 100, and et cetera, maybe we can get up to 2,000 units, and that per user cost would come down. So by bundling everybody together, we can, the municipalities can get a reduced cost. And again, there's just some information attached to that. Another one, I don't know if this is a bona fide thing, but I did speak at another municipality about Airbnbs. There was a big problem, which I'm sure Margate experienced, with noise complaints. And I asked if you had a decibel reading device. They said no, that it's too costly, and you needed a PhD to operate it. Well, I did some research on it, and I'd like to maybe meet with one of the commissioners who's ever in charge to go into greater detail. But there's maybe an opportunity, instead of each city, Margate, Ventnor, and Longport, having 6 officers trained, which would be 18, maybe you do 3 each. And if you didn't have an officer on duty and needed, you could pull from another municipality, but you get, again, through LEAP, get 75% of your training costs paid, and maybe the decibel reader share that. Again, this may be something that you're not interested in, maybe something that you would want to do on your own, but I'd like just to meet with somebody to go into greater detail on it. And the last one is the Atlantic County works with a company called 3+1 to manage their cash investments. They saw $700,000 in increased revenues by using this company. They're not a bank. You don't invest the money with them. They're a technology platform that looks at every one of your cash transactions to see how long you need cash, when you can spend it, when the proper time. They monitor interest rates for you, and make suggestions. It's up to you. Understand that you don't manage the cash that Atlantic County does, but if they experience 0.0029 increase in their budget, revenue over their budget, that if Margate got half of that and applied that to your utility as well, which you're responsible for, maybe pulled the school in, that you can see about $65,000 in added revenue to the taxpayers of Margate. Even if you're very aggressive in doing that, doing this model may save you, your CFO and your finance department, a lot of time, since somebody else will be doing this. Your cost would be about $12,000 because they charge you per budget. It's $250 per million. So if you put all those budgets together, it'd be about $12,000. So again, upfront costs, might be able to apply for a LEAP grant to get 75% of that paid, reducing your overall cost to you. So they were the ideas I had. I'd be willing to talk further to you. I know I only had a minute and a half, so I went quick, but I can, again, my purpose today is just to give you an overview and see if you're interested in sitting in on any of these webinars to get more detailed explanation. And again, there's before 5 different ones, so it's not going to be all together. It's going to tie up a whole afternoon. Maybe your CFO attends one, your building official attends another one, your administrator check all of them. That's up to you. But my goal is just to assess if there's any interest in Margate participate in this, in these webinars. And then the last thing that you have there is just the grants that we're giving out through the LEAP program, just to give you an idea of what other municipalities, what other counties have done to take advantage of the local efficiency achievement program, which there's serious talk, and I believe they made a decision that the grant amount will be $400,000 this year versus $150,000. So they've increased it greatly. So that's any questions,
Any
comments?
questions? Mr. Kreischer?
No,
Marty,
just
John?
great presentation.
Good.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, so somebody can let me know if you're interested, so when I send out the meeting planners, I include the city of Margate.
You kept within your time limits. That's good.
I'm not like that, no.
Don't go there, Tim.
That we all know and experience.
Lisa, best practices, please.
Good afternoon. Yes, as you know, the annual best practices survey was due, and it has been submitted and certified by myself, Johanna, and Rich as required. An additional requirement is that we discuss it at a public meeting. Each of you were provided with the results of the survey. For this year, there was a total of 56 questions, 42 of which are scored. They consisted of 31 related to core competencies, 11 best practices. There were 13 unscored questions, primarily consisting about what Mr. Kreischer had referred to in reference to the 2020 law about the lead-based paint inspections on rental units, which Jim Galantino assisted me with responding to those questions. In order to receive our full amount of state aid this year, which is approximately $765,000 from energy receipts tax, we needed to score above a 24, which we have. It was pretty cut and dry, a little less complicated than in prior years, I thought. Does anybody have any questions in regards to any of the questions? Okay, that's
Good.
all I have to
Good job.
report on it, so
Okay.
thank you.
Any questions for Lisa? Well, let's move on to the engineer's report. Mr. Dennis?
Thank you, Mayor. Starting off, as always, with our dredging program. Items A and B, we have our citywide dredging permit that was submitted back in September. We have not received the initial round of comments yet, but when we do, we will react to those. Item B is the Shelter Island co-project, which is our alternate dredge disposal site of Shelter Island. We have a joint permit processing meeting scheduled for November 9th with the Army Corps and DEP. As I've reported at previous meetings, we have received informal direction from the agencies. This will give us formal guidance. We are preparing the permit documents for this project. Once we have the official direction from the agencies, we can finalize those documents and submit for our permit. I would also just note that we have submitted for our Tidelands license for Shelter Island, so that is already in progress. They actually called to check in to make sure that this was still an active project, and it is. So they have it in hand, and that Tidelands license will follow suit once we get our permitting moving for item B. Item C is the additional flood-proofing work at this building. Reported at previous meetings that we will be taking a look at this project as part of an upcoming capital budget. It's been a long slog with FEMA and the state OEM. Jim Galantino has been helping out recently to try to break the logjam here, but they've got other projects that they're focused on, and it seems like that is always the case, but we are in the pipeline for additional funding for that work. Next few items on the page here are all over at the SIG Rim complex. We have our Wall of Fame project that we have a plan pretty much ready for review, so we'll get that over to you guys to take a look at before we proceed further for the bidding process. And once we have that in front of us, I'll go over it at a meeting for the benefit of the public on what we are proposing. Item E is the walkway replacement over at the SIG Rim complex, which is also pretty much ready to go out to bid. We're just finishing up the final drafting on that. Item F is the batting cage, same status, just about ready to go out to bid. We will get the final plans over to Andrew to take a look at on the batting cage before we do proceed with bidding. For the walkway and for the batting cage, we have been authorized to bid those projects. We were authorized at the last commission meeting. And then the last item on here is the tennis courts 1 through 4 project, which is in the design. We are working with Andrew on the court surfacing types that we talked about at the last meeting to make sure we're squared away there. And for all 4 of these projects, we've been working with Andrew on the budgeting. We got him some updated cost information for his budget. Some of our original estimates went up a little, some went down a little based on where the current market prices are. So those projects are all moving towards the bid phase. Turning to page 2, our next road project that will go out to bid will be the Winchester Avenue project, which was a 2022 NJDOT State Aid grant. So we are just wrapping up the final drafting on that. The engineering design is complete. The 2022 road program is also in engineering. We did our survey work. That is in currently the base plan phase. Item J we could talk about for a minute. So this is the Washington Avenue streetscape concept that I've reported on the last few meetings. There was a grant application due. It's actually due today, but Mr. Rotella, I believe, submitted it last week. This project is a follow-through on the city's updated master plan that was adopted fairly recently. The master plan discusses a pedestrian and bicycle-friendly corridor connecting the bayfront to the beachfront on Washington Avenue. We did prepare 2 concept plans. One concept is a relatively straightforward replacement in kind, where we would essentially replace the sidewalks along Washington Avenue with new brick pavers, maybe do some bump outs into the road, that type of thing. And then there was a more aggressive plan that would create a new off-street 2-way bike lane on Washington Avenue. We would have new wide brick paver sidewalks, new street trees, bicycle racks down on Amherst Avenue, as well as perhaps raised crosswalks we've talked about for some traffic calming. So this concept plan was completed. It was shared with Mr. Rotella. We did our cost estimating on it, and he did apply for grant funding through the NJDOT to fund this work. That the particular grant program is referred to as the Transportation Set-Aside Program. It has more money than usual this go-around. I think the grants are available up to $1.5 million. So there's a good opportunity that we could get a portion of this work, if not all of it, funded through this program. But the thinking was, independent of the grant, of this particular grant opportunity, we needed to have a concept in place, a framework in place, just as the next step as part of the master planning process. So I'll pause there if anyone has any questions. If not, I can keep going. Item K is our CRS program, which we're going to work on continuously with Jim to make sure that we are maximizing our points in the CRS system. Item L is the roof replacement project at the library that we discussed at the last meeting. We did receive bids. They did come in over the estimate. I know Joe from my office, I think was working with you, Roger, on the co-op. So we're looking at all the options. We had a base bid and an alternate bid, and then we have the co-op option. So we're pulling in that information. I know we've reached out to the co-op to try to get some costs from them so that we can evaluate all the options and make a recommendation on how to move forward with that project. Item M is our running list of grant applications, which has been updated. The Adams Avenue Stormwater Pump Station actually is being resubmitted for the next round of FEMA funding. So this is for the Adams Avenue Pump Station down near Amherst Avenue. and I attended a virtual meeting with Jim Rotella. It was actually technically considered an interview with the Ocean Wind Trust, who are associated with the offshore wind farm that is in progress. They have a community fund that they are taking applications on to provide resiliency funding. And Jim is working on a grant application to secure matching funds for the Adams Avenue Pump Station project, so that if we secure the 75% federal funding for that project, we could potentially match that up with funding from the trust. And I attended with Lisa, actually, it wasn't with Jim Rotella. And we did a presentation, and I thought it went fairly well. And, you know, I guess we'll wait to hear back on the results of that process. Other updates on the grant list are, if you weren't aware, we were successful in securing $306,000 for supplemental lane markings for the bike lanes on Atlantic Avenue.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, we applied through the NJDOT discretionary aid program. This was discussed at past meetings where we talked about doing the green colored marking in the new bike lanes on the Atlantic Avenue road diet to help deter vehicles from essentially using those lanes as right turn lanes. So this is a fresh announcement here on this funding. We've discussed different ways of using this funding, whether we would do, you know, green bike lanes the whole length, or we would just do them at key intersections. So now that we were successful in securing this funding, I think we can start to take a closer look at those options. But this is good news to help continue on the work that's already been done down on Atlantic Avenue. So that's great news. And then item 51 on here is just the grant application for Washington Avenue that I just covered. That's the streetscape project that was just submitted. Under miscellaneous, we are working on the next round of projects for 2023, looking ahead, working with Rich on that. Pivoting down to our construction projects. On maintenance bonds, we've only got one left on the list, and we did recommend release, so we're all closed out for the 2022 as far as projects that are coming up on maintenance bond expirations. Our closeout list, we did have our anniversary inspection completed at the Benson Avenue tanks. We're just waiting for the report on that. And we've moved the Amherst Avenue project onto the closeout list since the punch list work has been completed. The Margate Library HVAC, the update is we were originally expecting that HVAC equipment to arrive sometime in the fall. That has pushed, and the new ship date is now December 7th. We are seeing that all over the state for all HVAC equipment. The lead times are very volatile and continue to push out. Turning the page, the municipal building renovation project, I did not personally have a chance to stop by there this week, but they are almost complete, if not complete, with the drywall. I know that there's some electrical work, some lighting, the ceiling tiles are being worked on. So the last time I was there, it's really coming together, and you know, we're still, we're going to be in a holding pattern for that HVAC unit, but other than that, the contractor's making good progress over there. Item S is the 2021 road program, which is Mansfield Avenue, also includes the police parking lot. I did add a schedule onto the report here. The contractor is going to be working on utilities through November. There's a decent amount of concrete work that's going to need to be done in December. We're looking right now at base paving in January and then final paving in April. There was this week, they were waiting on some pipe that got delayed because of availability, but this is the latest and greatest schedule on the completion of the work on Mansfield Avenue. And then I have a note here that they are working on the water main and the sanitary sewer main. Item T is the curb and gutter program that was recently awarded. We did have our pre-construction meeting last month, and the work is scheduled to start sometime early this month. Same update on the beach bulkhead access at Knight Avenue and Union Avenue. Work is expected to start sometime this month. And then our last item on the list here is our water meter replacement program, which we discussed at past meetings. We are working through the additional funding so then we can eventually move forward and schedule a pre-construction meeting on this first phase of work for the water meter replacements. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Dennis?
None.
Thank you, Ed. this point, we will begin with department head reports. Scott, why don't you begin?
Mayor, we have a couple of things. First, I see that we do have the zoning ordinance amendment regarding the third floor decks on roofs on the front of buildings. It seems to me like the planning board has worked out a compromise. We're not going to allow them in the back portion, so there's no ability to look in perhaps to bedrooms or whatever. But it's a high demand. It seems like we've had a lot of variance applications for these decks on the third level. And I see that that ordinance has now been drafted and I believe approved by the planning board first, or no? Consistent with the master plan. So it's up to you to introduce it tonight and move forward if you so choose to do that. A little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. It's, that's right. It's already introduced. Thought we had pulled it, but we did not. Okay. A little bit of good news. We had a Oprah lawsuit victory. Superior Court Judge Porto ruled in favor of Margate. Our city clerk was perfect. She had done everything fine with the request by online code red. There was an effort to get all the registrants' information when they registered for that emergency notice that we send out, those phone blasts that Fred Werner's in charge of. Judge Porto's written a nice opinion. We won. This organization apparently has lawsuits in virtually every county of New Jersey on these type of complaints, Oprah complaints. But we won this one. I do not know if they're going to appeal or not. They could. The decision just came out earlier this week. They have 45 days. With regard to other litigation, Mathis Construction, I got an update from our attorney, Jim Birchmeyer. They are still in discovery. They are scheduling depositions. He will have to have a representative of the city for a deposition available, but essentially the job is run by our engineer. That is moving forward. Was contacted by a lawyer for some of the other homeowners who have relatively small but very important claims as well. And I asked Jim if he would talk to that lawyer, maybe put him in contact with whatever lawyer it is at Travelers, see if we can't help push their claims along too. We're not involved with litigation there, that's not ours. But Jim is dealing with Travelers. As you know, we sued to have Travelers fully indemnify and hold us harmless and representative. That's been answered by Travelers, and it's still up in the air as to how they're going to do that. Ultimately, Travelers will either reimburse us if we win, which I think we will. It reimburse us for our costs, or take over the defense of it, which is what their contract says they should be doing. At least that's my interpretation of it. Other than that, I know in lead ordinance, another state mandate, but state makes us pay. We will have the ordinance for our next meeting, providing for the inspection of rental properties for lead paint. As you heard Mr. Kreischer, or Mayor Kreischer, I should say, former mayor, talk about perhaps some fine, getting people certified for that. I don't know, but I do know that we have to do through our construction department, we're going to have to do these inspections every time they change a tenant. So, but we're moving forward on that. And I think that's basically it.
Hey, thank you very much, Scott. Frank?
Yeah, this week we were out flushing fire hydrants. We came across no problems. We'll be finishing up tomorrow. We installed 5 new water meters in the past 2 weeks because of all the new construction. We were up in Marvin Gardens and we planted some crepe myrtles that were requested by the people in Marvin Gardens. It did fill in one of the mounds. Most of the mounds have them, so we finished off that one. We installed the ramp at Thai School for voting next week. That was done by Public Works. We were up at the dog park, and today we painted the gazebo, and we hung the new signs up. Next week we're going to go in there and start grooming the ground with new sand and cleaning everything up. And we'll move on to that list that we had and that was given to us, and we'll finish that up, and hopefully everybody will be happy.
What took you so long?
We try.
Good job, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
As Frank stated, the construction's pretty busy out there. The streets look good though with the pools. I think we got that underway pretty good with the draining. They're maintaining them in a better condition. They took a house away the other day, Halk on, I think it was Thurlow. And I've never seen a house drive down the street before. It was pretty cool. That was pretty neat. That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Jim. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Frank, watch your steps. So, real quick on the the two ordinances that you have for tonight for final approval and adoption. Again, they were originally heard by the planning board in June, I think it was June 28th. There was a straw poll for whether to include rear yard decks. That was voted 4-3 to not include rear yard decks. Ultimately, it passed consistency review, 6 votes in favor, 1 against. It was recently reheard again, as you are aware, it was reintroduced and found to be consistent again with the master plan by a vote of 5-3. I just want to point out that the 1 no vote in June voted yes, and the 3 no votes in October voted in favor of it in June. So it's consistently inconsistent on the vote. However, I do want to point out that every application that has been in front of the board for the last 3 years for a third floor deck with certain criteria has been approved. So we owe it to, based on the master plan and municipal land use law, to find it consistent, or there's another word that you can use. It is not inconsistent with the master plan. So in regard to that, there was no discussion on why they were voted yes or no, but it was found to be majority of consistency. And the criteria, there's no roofs allowed on the third floor deck. And these are separate from the ones that are already approved on the beachfront, beach block, and waterfront. So anywhere else that they have certain strict design criteria. And as it turns out, most of the people that get this third floor deck, after about 2 years, they get tired of it, they never use it, and they want to convert it to living space, which they can't do unless it's within the building envelope. So I just wanted to put your at ease that it was again approved by the planning board. I think you're doing the right thing by approving this. And again, if there's issues with this down the road, we can revisit this and take it out. But again, this does not include rear yard decks at the third floor level. To me, that would be inconsistent with the master plan. And other than that, that's all I have to report.
Great explanation.
Thank you, Roger. Rich?
It's that time of year again when we're beginning seriously into the budget process for the following year, so that's underway. Lisa has sent out information to department heads, I have as well, and we're gathering information for the budget for next year. I am spending a lot of my time right now on following up on labor contracts, either group labor contracts or individual professional contracts to make sure that they're renewed or initiated. I will be presenting a recommendation to the governing body before the end of the year on a number of those contracts. The only major contract that's other than an individual contract that is outstanding for the next year would be the Beach Patrol lifeguard contract. We're in the very beginning stages of negotiations with the Beach Patrol on that, and that likely will not be completed before the end of this year, but the individual contract should be. I did have a question for the solicitor on his report. I had spoken here, and I'm somewhat confused, and perhaps it's resolved, but the process, the actual legal process for putting liens on property is not understood by me, and I'm not sure that it's understood by everybody. So my question to you, solicitor, is it was my understanding that we were going to be reviewing or renewing an ordinance that we might have.
We are, and I've been working on that, and oddly enough, just about every other municipality's ordinance that I've looked at has nothing on that at all. It's basically governed by state law, but what I intend to do is have an ordinance before the end of the year where we will set forth what the state law authorizes us to do. But from what I can see, most towns just, they put their liens on in many different ways. And it should be one way, there should be
Yeah,
one.
I'm trying to get
uniform
some
way.
consistency for all of us to know
Yeah.
going forward.
That's the game plan. But it's a little bit difficult because there isn't something I can go look and see if some other town does it. Most of them are silent on it. But we'll create something. We've done it before, we'll do it again, create something. Probably a bunch of other towns will say, let's take a look at that, they'll do it too, maybe. We'll see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. First of all, a couple of thank yous. First of all, we had a very successful trunk or treat event a few weeks ago at the Thai School. It's a special thank you to Detective Erin Borelli. She put a lot of time and effort to make sure the kids were safe. It's a good community event. Along with the Margate Mothers Association, it really worked out well. I know Commissioner Amadeo was there. A lot of members from the police department. Everybody really seemed to have a good time, and the event's getting bigger and bigger every year, so it's really, really nice to see. Another thank you to the public and everybody for the recent Atlantic City Marathon. Again, this is an event that, in conjunction with the Jewish Community Center, we try to help out as much as possible. It's a lot of people coming through town, and it's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, but it always seems to work successfully every year, so I wanted to thank everybody for that. The police department is starting our annual fundraiser with Atlantic Care Treasure the Moment Fund for No Shave November. We've always been a large contributor, so you will see a lot of beards probably over the next 4 to 6 weeks. So it's a good event, and we seem to raise a lot of money for it, so it's been really good. Reminder that on December 16th, we're going to do our annual toy drive. We do that at Jerome Avenue. Baseball fields, it's another event that's gotten bigger and bigger every year. It's a great community event. Again, a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into it, so we'll do a lot more press as it comes up closer. So just want to remind everybody to put that on their calendars. Last thing I have is with our clocks turning back soon, there's going to be a lot more darkness and a lot more darkness hours. So again, be very diligent, lock your cars, lock your homes. Again, just because there's some less residents in the winter time, doesn't mean crime takes a holiday. I know it's not the best way to say it, but crime does not take a holiday. So again, if we lock our doors and lock our cars, we can prevent, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So again, just remember that, get yourself on a schedule. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Lisa?
Hello again. Just want to point out a couple of things that are on the agenda for today, one of which is Resolution 216, authorizing the issuance of bond anticipation notes. We currently have bands in the amount of $15,250,000, which are coming due December 14th. So we're going to roll them over, pay them off, and we need to also take out additional debt to fund some projects that have already been awarded or are about to be awarded, because we just need it cash-wise. The notes the date of the sale will be November 15th. We've been watching the interest rates, which I'm anticipating to be somewhere around 4%. Our plan is to go out for permanent financing next year, and that goes along with our schedule of issuing bonds. And it has been confirmed and discussed with our professionals, bond counsel and financial advisor, that we are able to pay off the notes that we're taking out within 90 days of maturity when we issue the bonds for next year. So that'll fall in line with our schedule. What else? One other thing I just wanted to point out on a separate note, I asked Rich, on our city calendar, it doesn't note that January 2nd, the offices are closed for the holiday, but we will be closed, so I don't know if you want to, Johanna, to put something on the website or put it out there publicly so everybody knows and is aware.
That's because the holiday falls on a Sunday?
Yes, yeah. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Andrew?
All right, Mayor and Commissioners, Chief Hankinson was mentioning how it's getting darker earlier. I've had a few residents talk to us about possibly lighting the Lucy Playground at some point in the future. So I don't know if that's something we're interested in, but if so, we can look into that, whether it be through Public Works or, move forward by talking with them. What would you guys think of that?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's the centerpiece of the city, and people driving in on Jerome Avenue with some sort of uplighting where it doesn't affect the neighborhoods towards the park would illuminate her, and it sets up, I think it would be awesome.
Okay.
Andrew, why don't you talk to my new nephew?
Yeah, right.
I think he's talking about doing something there.
Okay,
Okay?
okay, will do. All right.
Andrew, if I might, is there, do we think there's a need, and John, you might, or Mike, you might know better than I do, to get some better lighting in the complex all around? It just seems to me when we're not in the holiday season, that it's really pretty dark there.
So I had Joe Marciani and Donna Casey meet with a lighting guy. I'm not exactly sure what company, but just to get an idea, if we were to light the path. So they did just meet with him. I mean, we don't have an estimate back, but I just wanted to get
Okay.
a general idea of what that cost would be. So yeah, we just did that on Monday.
Okay.
So I can get some kind of number, just a rough estimate, so we have an idea what that would cost.
Okay.
And even if that is too expensive, maybe just some additional select pole lights throughout, in different, maybe one out in center field, one over, it just, like I said, it just seems pretty dark over there. And they don't have to stay on all night. I mean, they could be put on timers, so at least that we have some light there until, I don't know,
Okay.
1 in the morning or, okay,
Anything else?
no, that's all.
Yeah, otherwise, today, a group of our seniors, about 30 seniors, they went on a bus trip to Cape May, took like a historic trolley trip and had lunch. So that was nice for them, and just keep in mind, Monday is our Veterans Lunch at the Pavilion. That's always a great day where we honor all of our veterans in town.
Thank you, Andrew. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. One, to segue on to Chief Hankinson to talk about daylight savings ending on Sunday. We want to remind all our residents to change your clock, but also check your battery and your smoke detector. We do recommend to actually change out your smoke detector to a 10-year lithium battery smoke detector. And if anyone needs assistance with smoke detectors or assistance in us installing them, please contact the fire department. Two, I just want to say thank you to the police department. The trick-or-treating this year was unbelievable. We had well over 500 people come by my house on Douglas Avenue, and they had the police department out in force and had several spots that they were actually stop directing traffic, and it really made things a lot safer and a lot more easygoing for everybody that was out there. But the crowds were just, it was different. It wasn't steady, but when they came in droves of like 50 to 100 at a time coming across. So it was just crazy. Lastly, and Lisa actually reminded me on getting the quote for fireworks. So I'm working on getting the quote for the 2023 show, and also on, once I get the quote, I will work on getting the signed agreement with Margate Mothers to assure that that will be funded for the 2023 show. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Johanna?
I would like to remind everyone, November 8th is Election Day. Districts 3 and 4 have been moved to Thai School. They will be entering through the Monmouth Avenue area. There is parking in the playground. I also got a notice this week that the expansion of premise for liquor licenses has been extended to November 30th, 2024. So
Just
it
to,
keeps going.
just to segue on what Johanna just said, I have a stack of, everybody's already applied for them. I already have a file on everybody, so the day it must have come out, everybody filed at the same time, because I got a dozen emails with everybody's expansion already on my desk, so.
Yep.
Everybody knew at the same time.
So that is what's new in the clerk's office.
Thank you, Johanna. Commissioners, Maury, you have anything?
Yes, so I have a couple of things. I wanted to thank Mr. Kreischer for his presentation. I think a lot of the ideas are good ones, and I think we're, most apply to us. So I think we're, my question is, Mike, what would be our next step to explore these with him? Do we want to ask Rich to get with the department heads, and if they're interested, to get back to Tim directly?
Well, I think at some point we have to get back to Mr. Kreischer, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know if there's and I still see him here. Is there a timeline, Tim, for when you need to know whether or not we're interested in each one of these?
No, I have a tentative date of December 1st for one and December 14th for the other. December 1st is a cybersecurity
Okay.
presentation. December 14th is the electronic record and document storage. So you can let me know those two. The other ones, I'm still waiting for dates. But, up to that point, I can always include you on the meeting notice.
Cool. Thank you. We'll get back to you. Rich, would you see if we can meet those dates, please? Thank you.
I will coordinate.
Thank you.
And a couple other things I have. I see that Mr. Jasicki is in, so I don't want to steal his thunder, but I know there's a Sustainable Margate meeting coming up, I think next week. And so this is for the people that might be listening. And I know Mike and John know this, and probably everybody in the room knows this. They do some great things, and they're involved in some pretty important things. So anybody that wants to attend can attend their meetings. They're open to the public, and anybody that wants to get involved should try and get involved in some of the good things that they're doing. They're doing important work, not just for Margate, but for the community, the whole community at large. And then the last thing that I noticed, signs up for the shredding event that Public Works does, which is a great event. It's very well attended, and I think that's coming up. Frank, and what is that date? Do you know? Is it the 19th?
I believe it is.
I don't know if we have another meeting. I wanted to get that out onto the record as well. That shredding event. I think the date is the 19th.
Yes.
Okay, and that's all I have.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, it would be the 19th.
Okay.
Yes, Mayor, I just want to extend a thank you that I received from Marg Rosenblatt from the JCC for the work that the city did, and especially the Margate Police Department, setting up all the detours and coordinating. I think our chief had sat in meetings months and months ago, and it was a extremely, even with a little bit of rain, successful event. And again, I have to touch on what Chief Hankinson had mentioned about our trunk and treat. Moving it to this Thai school yard was, and the mayor witnessed it, the crowd was phenomenal. There had to be over 1,000 people, kids and adults there. And the way the Margate mothers and Erin Borelli coordinated dressing, how would you say, the vehicles, the trunks, dressing them up, and being a judge, along with Deputy Chief Armstrong, it was really a hard pick to make. And when I saw that Jurassic Park setup, it was so unique, we had to give the first place to it this year, where last year we gave it to Leslie's. So Leslie's, because they put on a production, which is a local dance studio here, and she had all her kids there entertaining the adults. They got second place this year instead of first place. And third place went to our Public Works Department because of the season of football and baseball. You guys had a great setup there. And there were so many great exhibits, it was a very difficult pick to make, but we felt we did a good job. Thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you. I have but one thing to say. Isn't it really nice to be a part of Margate?
Yes.
That's all. Cool. At this point, we'll open for public comment. You have 3 minutes to discuss anything that we talked about here at this meeting. Is there any public comment? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes,
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Thank you all. We will reconvene at 4 o'clock.